I firmly believe that environmental movements should launch violent campaigns against major polluting companies. Now, before anything, let me be clear. When I say violent campaigns, I'm not talking about harming innocent people or causing random chaos. I'm talking about direct, physical, and targeted actions against companies that continue to destroy our planet for profit. The ones who dump waste into rivers, burn forests, and pump toxic gas into the air while pretending to go green in their advertisement. Environmental movements are groups or communities fighting to protect the earth. That includes activists, organizations, or even regular citizens who care about our climate. Major polluting companies refers to large-scale corporations that cause significant environmental damage through pollution, deforestation, and overproduction. And violent campaigns in this debate means strategic against acts of force, include sabotage, property damage, and blocking production. Actions that disrupt or stop corporate harm when peaceful efforts have failed. For decades, environmental movements have tried to create change peacefully. Petitions have been signed, people have marched, and attended climate conferences. But what's the result? Temperature keeps rising, forests keep disappearing, oceans keep filling with plastic. In fact, research tracing historical fossil fuel and cement emissions linked to 75 investor-owned companies to roughly 22% of these emissions. The biggest corporate players have an outsized share of responsibility. We recycle bottles while oil companies drill new wells. We plant a few trees while corporations clear thousands of hectares every year. Clearly, peaceful action has lost its power. Not because people don't care, but because corporations simply don't listen. Companies only respond to two things, profit and pressure. Peaceful protests don't threaten their profit, but violent campaigns, sabotaging pipelines, disabling mining machines, halting factory production, those make them lose money. And when they lose money, suddenly they will start to listen. Violence has become the only language left after decades of being ignored. People will say, violence is wrong, but I want to ask, wrong compared to what? Corporations destroyed rainforests, poison rivers, and release toxic gas that kills ecosystem. That itself is violence too, in a silent and legal form. For example, Indonesia's state oil firm reports that gigaton-scale Scope 1 and 2 emissions in project reports, and major coal miners in Indonesia have expanded production in recent years, raising real climate and public health risks. And peaceful protests don't make headlines anymore. They are ignored by governments and overshadowed by corporate propaganda. Violence, when used strategically, forces attention and creates urgency. It makes government and corporations realize that if we don't change, they won't stop. We've seen similar patterns even here in Indonesia. Just recently, in August 2025, nationwide demonstration had turned violent. Public facilities were damaged, vehicles have been burned, and chaos filled the streets. And for the first time in months, the government media and public actually start talking about those issues again. And it proved that violence captures attention in a way peace rarely does. It shows that when people feel ignored long enough, anger becomes the only form of visibility left. So when peaceful cries of thousands are ignored, destruction will speak louder. I'm not talking about harming people. I'm talking about damaging property that harms people. Every major movement in history faced the same amount of argument. Women's rights activists broke laws, anti-colonial movements fought with weapons, and then they were called violent too, until history proved them right. People might say violence will lead to chaos, but chaos already exists. It's just slower and disguised, only with clean suits and company logos. At least this kind of violence fights back. So, when the law protects polluters instead of the planet, then what's left? When peaceful protests are ignored, what do? You have to disrupt. You resist. You make it impossible for them to keep destroying. Violence in this context isn't about hate, but about urgency. It is a last resort when everything else has failed.